Oh, I've got a spooky story for you. Wasn't too long ago, on a night much like tonight, two people, much like you and me, slipped into a hot tub. Then this other guy shows up with a bag of pretzels, and he spills his pretzels into the water. And the one who's like you says, "Excuse me." And then he says, "You can't prove that wasn't an accident." And he turns around and walks away. Dun 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 dun. Two of the greatest games of the year came out last Friday. Of course, I'm talking about Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Spider-Man 2. Now, you're obviously thinking, first and foremost, which one is better? Frustratingly, they have the same exact score on OpenCritic, so that's no help. But if we can be intellectually honest for a second, people, there is some nuance to this conversation. What one person likes is not always the same thing that another person likes. So, as someone who has finished both of these games, owns a camera and a microphone, I do consider myself uniquely qualified to inform you which of these two games you will prefer. If you like a game with a good story, check out Super Mario Bros. Wonder. So here's the premise. Bowser, King of the Koopas, accidentally DNA digivolves with a castle, creating a Castle Bowser hybrid, who is charging up power to create some sort of world-altering mega wonder. Now, he needs some time to do this, so to bide himself that time, he creates cloud monsters that are impenetrable. And the only way to dissipate the cloud monsters is for Mario or any of his 13 friends to collect a large wonder seed. Fortunately, there are 6 of each, so go get them. That's it. All of that makes more sense than what happens in Spider-Man 2. It's a story about superheroes and supervillains, and yet you don't get what anyone is. Everyone seems very stupid. Like we all knew coming in. If it's a Venom story, it's a Black Suit Spider-Man story. There are going to be moments where you're thinking, Peter Parker, what are you doing? And that can be good sometimes. That can create an interesting story. However, it's everyone. It's Miles Morales. What are you doing? Mary Jane Watson. What are you doing? Kraven the Hunter. What are you doing? Venom. What are you doing? And I wouldn't call it bad writing, because I think the dialogue is well written and it's definitely well performed, but just the story, the plot that unfurls is wall-to-wall bullshit. Just nonstop weird, strange bullshit that all the characters in the story are willing to accept and roll along with. You feel like the weird one as the person watching all of this. If you're into satisfying play style options, consider Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Something I didn't know about coming into this game is that there would be badges. And these are cool. They give you basically an extra passive ability, or they swap out what the R button does. They actually actively change how you play through a level. Some are stupid, some make levels easier, some are just fun to use. They're very cool. Conversely, with Spider-Man 2, it's got one of those skill trees where you just end up thoughtlessly filling out every node without ever making a choice. And even as you unlock new abilities or upgrade gadgets or whatever, none of that is truly effectively changing the decision-making that you are making in battles. They will be adding a New Game Plus to Spider-Man 2 before the end of the year. And it's like, it's not possible. You couldn't possibly say, oh baby, I can't wait to try out a new build. This next run is going to be totally different, because it will be all the same stuff. If you like quirky little surprises, Spider-Man 2 is the game for you. If you want a taste of what it's like to be in New York City, Pick up Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Yeah, it's got a taste of danger, creativity, a melting pot of cultures, unpredictable strangeness, and most importantly, grime. Conversely, I feel like Spider-Man 2 is almost completely devoid of New York moments. Here's my impression of every NPC in Spider-Man 2. Thank you for saving me, Spider-Man. I was just on my way to volunteer at the shelter. I hope I make it back there in time now. How come most of these people aren't like, screw you, Spidey? Go Yankees. Where's my hot dog? If you want a specific, direct, fair example, think about Coney Island, which they showed pretty early on. I think in planning, an important consideration has to be, okay, what makes Coney Island special? What's unique about this place that we should bring into the game? What could only happen here? And yet, in practice, it just is any other fair. It could have been any other fair you've ever been to in your entire life. And so a lot of Spider-Man 2's New York City feels kind of like that. New York City as a location for a video game where your power is swinging from webs. Ideal location. But in terms of the events of the game, the things that the characters do and the things that you do, it could have happened anywhere. They could have just made up a city. They could have said this takes place in Goo Goo Gaga City, and none of the levels would have had to have been changed. In fact, going back to the story, if they did name it Goo Goo Gaga City, a lot of that would have made more sense. If you want to relive the wonder of playing games as a child again, look no further than Spider-Man 2. This is an interesting, surprisingly self-aware moment from the Ask the Developer for Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Shiro Mori says, when I think back to the time I played the original Super Mario Bros. Game, I remember feeling that it was full of hidden surprises and wonders. Coins would come out when you hit the blocks, and your body would grow bigger with super mushrooms. Back then, everything was new and packed with unexpected delights. However, now that the Super Mario games have been enjoyed by players for many years, those things have somehow become ordinary. That's why Tezuka-san's goal was to create moments that even modern players would find unexpected and wondrous. And then Koichi Hayashida succinctly caps that off. What used to be wondrous back then is no longer wondrous today. Neither for players, nor for us developers. Maybe this is just me. Mario Wonder is full of genius, delightful moments. It is packed full of great ideas, but I do think it falls short of wondrous. Wondrous is hard to achieve. I don't know if there was any way that game could make us feel the same way the first Super Mario Bros. Game did. And again, this could just be me, but Spider-Man 2 amazes, astounds. It does. It has those set-piece moments where you can't believe that this is being rendered in real time, and it totally is. But the main thing for me is just being in this fully realized city and web-slinging. Still, assists off, fall damage on, just being a Spider-Man out there. This technical feat remains wondrous. In my opinion, this is a dream. This is flat out dreamy. Truly, though, in the case of both games, I love them both. I'm standing in awe of their design. I appreciate that they exist. It's crazy, man. It's so weird they came out on the same day in the same year. Sometimes you just have to feel happy about things like this. Which doesn't make for good videos. You can't stand in a chair and just say, I like both games for 7.5 minutes. But I do, man. Just had a great week. What can I say? Well, there was one bad thing that happened this week. I dropped my pretzels in a hot tub by accident. And that's delayed input for this week. And in fact, the end of the Dragon Shirt season. Now, typically, between delayed input seasons, there will be 3 weeks with an in-betweener video in the middle. However, Thanksgiving is coming at the end of November, and I can't mess that up. I can't miss my Thanksgiving trip to my sweet, sweet grandmother. You have to understand. So I think November will have a couple of in-betweeners with delayed input returning December 1st. And then taking a week off for the Game Awards, and then coming back for the rest of the full season normally after that. And I realize that's a lot of scheduling talk that you might not care about. The bottom line is that there will be more videos to come on youtube.com/Kyle Bossman. And thanks for watching. So there's a tough delayed input balance, right? Between talking about games that haven't come out yet and games that have come out yet. And typically, most of the time I'm just making fun of somebody's trailers more than I am like actually talking about a video game that I just played. So I thought because those two games were so good, I gotta make the episode about them. But this week, Microsoft tried a whole new thing. A new digital event called Xbox Partner Preview. And it differentiates itself from Nintendo and Sony in 3 ways. I was about to say interesting. Let's just say 3 ways. Firstly, no announcer. There's no host. There's no voiceover. It just flows. It just goes. Granted, the developer direct they did earlier this year kind of also had no host. It did have people talking to the camera, and then also the annoying whiteboard noises. So this had none of those. All right, also, next bullet point. They had, at the halftime, they had this weird slate that showed you what they had talked about so far. And then also little golden stickers to let you know what was a new announcement. And that won't matter to most of the audience. But it does make this whole thing feel more special somehow. Actually, I like the golden stickers. And even at the end of the whole thing, there was this graphic. Here is every game we just showed you. That's a nice visual aid. I don't mind that one bit. I would actually like if the other shows did that. And then this was the strangest thing, is that after each segment, there would be this advertisement, a little QR code, and a prompt to go check out exclusive blog posts on Xbox Wire. Maybe not everyone, but almost every game shown had a correlating exclusive blog post. Xbox Wire is where I go every time I need one of those Xbox press releases. Xbox Wire is not, a premier gaming info location, but maybe it's about to be. But Xbox, come on now. Who is pausing your live show to whip out their phone and scan in the QR code to access that part of the website, to just keep the tab open and then unpausing so they don't miss any more of this live event? For me, I'm going to need 20 seconds for me to scan that QR code. I'm pulling out my phone. If there's any notification, I will forget what I opened my phone for. And then I have to, I got to tap on I got to scan that. And then during a live show, get the QR code off the screen.